John Gill's exposition of the entire Bible, brought to you by Discovering the Scriptures, being read by Dr. Peter John Parisis. 1 John chapter 2, verse 29, the last verse of this chapter. Scripture being read, quote, "If ye know that he is righteous," unquote. John Gill's exposition being read now. Quote, "That is, Christ, who is righteous as God in his nature and in his works, and as man in his obedience, life, and conversation, and as mediator in faithfully discharging the work he undertook, and is the author of an everlasting righteousness which is imputed by God, revealed in the gospel, and received by faith, all which they knew, for this is not said as doubting, but rather as taking it for granted that they did know it, if, or seeing ye know, etc., then it follows." Reading the scriptures, quote, "Ye know," unquote. Reading John Gill. "Or know ye may assure yourselves." Reading scripture, quote, "That everyone that doeth righteousness," unquote. Reading John Gill, "not merely works of righteousness, especially in order to justify him before God, for such a one is so far from being born of God or born again that he, manifestly in a state of nature in opposition to and enmity against God, is not subject to him. He does not submit to the righteousness of God, but goes about to establish his own, and betrays his ignorancy and want of grace. But it intends such a one who with the heart believes unto righteousness, and lays hold by faith, and lives unto the righteousness of Christ for justification, and who performs good works in faith and from a principle of love, not to obtain a justifying righteousness, but because he is justified by the righteousness of Christ. And such a one, scripture, quote, "is born of him," unquote. John Gill, "either of God or rather of Christ, being regenerated by his Spirit, having his grace implanted in him as appears by his faith, in his righteousness, and by his works of righteousness as fruit of faith, and having his image stamped on him, and he himself formed in him, and so made like unto him, by all which is evident he is one of his spiritual seed and offspring. The Syriac Virgin reads, is of him, belongs to him, is one of his," and this makes way for what is said of adoption of the following chapter, and should begin here. This ends 1 John chapter 2, verse 29, and chapter 2 of John Gill's, brought to you by Discovering the Scriptures, being read by Dr. Peter John.